are you a superstitious guy? Do you have any superstitions with your running? Can you shoe like some people, put their shoes in the closet, they can't touch each other, or the laces have to be undone in the shoe or whatever. I don't know. Do you have any weird superstitions you've got with your running or?
No, no superstitions. I feel like I can't get swooped by magpies.
Oh,
That's sort of
really?
like I've just always thought that they don't never swoop me, and always like when I like walk, people get swooped, and I'm like, I've never been swooped by a magpie. I don't
I,
know.
I, I
Is
can't,
that a
I can't,
superstition?
I
Is that
can't,
just
I
my
can't,
own theory?
I can't say the same thing. Mate, we used to get hammered back where I used to live in Freshwater on the northern beaches, and down our street there was signs on the flag on the poles, like the trees or wherever on the poles, like the telegraph poles, warning. And there was a magpie there that used to swoop like notoriously, same time every year. Used to get my mum. My mum walked in the house one day and was like bleeding out of her head because it came and pecked her. But I think they actually put that magpie down because it was so vicious
Oh,
and
really? Yeah, I used to not
malicious.
work. I used to volunteer for Wise, who would rehabilitate animals. So I had a magpie for a little bit. Maybe that's why I think that I'm like a bit of a
Yeah.
magpie whisperer.
Yeah, well, maybe you're just they see you as a good citizen as opposed to,
I hope so.
yeah. In terms of what you're doing moving forward, it's obviously you got a really astonishing story, Troy. It's like incredible to listen to the journey you've been through. I know that you obviously have Blokes Perspective. You're the founder of Blokes Perspective. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that all involves and where the listeners can find more?
Yeah, so me and one of my friends were just sort of chatting one day, and he was working in youth work, and I was personal trainer, but obviously a mental health advocate as well. And he's like, we should just start like a page for men, because in the area there's been so many suicides and so many people suffer depression. Obviously, working in youth work, you would see that, and me working as a personal trainer is you're a counselor and you train people as well. So we're like, we should just start a page where we just jump on and just share tips and tricks that we've learned over the years of going through stuff. And it sort of started there. And then we started getting people on to speak about their own experience as well, because we realized that after a while, people just don't want to see our ugly heads on the Instagram page. So we get people on there to speak about like their own experiences, tips they may have learned, and they can share with people, because my tips might help Bob, but might not help Tom. So the more people we get on, and to show people that everyone does suffer, and such a normal thing, and a thing that happens in life, like 1 in 5 will experience some sort of mental illness, and just getting a vast array of people on to share their experiences, just to show that it's super common and you can reach out and you can speak up and be heard. So yeah, it's a cool little project that we have.
Yeah, and there's something that not many people know about you, but 18 months ago you were in a really dark hole yourself, weren't you? I think you were standing on. You might tell the listeners about it, but there was a moment where you actually tried to take your own life.
Yeah, so it was about 18 months ago, and me and my ex broke up, and it wasn't so much I think I now look back on it now, it's because I obviously came from drugs and partying and just making stupid decisions, where then I ran across Australia and was doing all these good things, that I was like, I'm actually a really good person. I'm in a good part of my life. And then obviously going through a breakup, and I was like, it was sort of a massive hit to my ego. It's
Yeah,
like I was like, fuck, I just got like broken up with, and I was just sort of in this turbulent headspace, and didn't know, because I've suffered depression before, and I was just like, what the fuck is going on? Um, and then I got to a point where I was just like so hurt and down. I drove to Cornell Cliffs and was just looking out there, and I get how people do take their own life, is they have all these turbulent emotions, and they're trying to grasp for the most logical thing, but you never feel like there's a way out of those thoughts. And the only thing was, that's the way out. Like looking at the cliff, and I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. Drove home, like, and then for the whole weekend, it was like, you should have done. You're a pussy, blah blah, and just so, I don't know. It was just the weirdest, because I've never sort of felt like that extreme and like that quickly. And I ended up running back out. Then I stood on the edge of the cliff, and I was like, okay, well, like, I'm going to find if I actually want to do it. And I ran out there and stood on the edge, and was just like, just started breaking down. I was just like sat on the rock and just started crying. And I was like, fuck, like. And then one of my mates called me, and I was just like, I just don't know what, like, what I'm thinking. It's just like, that's the only logical explanation is like,
It's so courageous of you to tell your story, mate. I think, there's probably a lot of people out there that are feeling very much the same way. And hopefully, maybe just one person listening to this podcast that hears that, might reach out to you. And I'm sure that, Troy, you'd be open to them reaching out to you if they're going through some tough times. There's also a whole host of other different organizations out there that can really help them too. Now, Blokes Perspective, I think, is Blake the other co-founder of Blokes Perspective?
Kyle.
Kyle, okay, but Blake is fundraising.
Yeah, so Blake was one of our guests we got on. Yeah,
and he's raising money for a world record surf session, I think it is, and it's like 30 hours and 11 minutes, surfing session, and he's almost raised like $500,000. And this is something I think you guys are getting behind, and you're trying to help him raise money for. Is there a way our listeners can donate? That's another crazy, like, it's really interesting to hear people doing things like that. But the only thing, like, I was talking to the guys from the Boomerang Loop, and I was saying how sitting on a bike for 24 hours, 16 hours in a day, I'd have a sore ass. But the only thing I'm thinking of, if I was surfing, for 30 hours, my fingers would be pruning like crazy, and you'd be freezing, you'd be cold. I don't know what conditions they're doing it in, but can you tell us a little bit more about that event and how people can get behind it?
Yeah, so he actually got the world record. So yeah, he was raising money for the Chumpy Pullen Foundation, who do a lot of kids' mental health stuff. So he was aiming for a 40-hour surf. So I think the previous record was like 35 or 30 something hours, and
So that was the previous record.
Yeah, and then he smashed it with the 40 hours as well. So, but it was a massive to stay out in the salt water, and also all I'd be thinking about for those 40 hours is the shark going to come and get me? But yeah, so he's raised a hell of a lot. So yeah, if you go to the Blokes Perspective page and then click on his profile, I'm sure he's to have the link in his bio as well.
Yeah, I think you can just click on the link tree in your bio as well.
Oh yeah,
it's
probably done there as well. Yeah,
that's what I did before. Yeah, coming on. So if you want to click the link in Troy, I'll put your Instagram username in the show notes, so people can just click on your Instagram, and if they want to donate or read a bit more about it, they can go and find it there.